Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I made an update about my ME/CFS recovery journey, so I thought it's about time I do so again. And so, yeah, what has happened since the last time? Well, no, I actually don't remember when the last video was, but anyways, what happened at least in the beginning of October was that I peaked. I had been sort of gradually been able to gradually increase my activity levels, and then I peaked in the beginning of October, and I actually had a week. The first week of October, I actually had almost 4,000 steps recorded daily, which was a significant increase because the last high was like 21,000 in a week. So almost 4,000. It wasn't quite 4,000, it was a bit under. So I think I hit like 26,000 that week at the peak. And to reach 4,000 average, I should have reached 28,000. So I was 2,000 short of that. But anyways, that was like a very big increase. And what happened was what usually happens when you increase and go too fast. You have a event, you have a PEM attack, a crash, whatever you want to call it. And so before that, I had actually not had one of those crashes, should say, since June, all the way back to June. So it had been quite a while. I had been pacing extremely well for about 4 months up until that point. But then, as tend to happen when you get too greedy with this, you get a crash. Fortunately, the crash, I was able to limit the crash. I didn't even have a double dip or a triple dip. It was only one sort of crash, and then I knew, okay, I've gone above the limit here. The symptoms were very strong after that. I um, had trouble. I had extreme fatigue again. Trouble standing for a long time. Even the first 2 days, I even needed to use like a wheelchair in the kitchen and stuff. Just only when cooking because I couldn't stand all the time. But it was only for like 2 days, and I made sure to rest really aggressively. So mainly because it didn't develop into multiple crashes. The most significant symptom was fatigue. The fatigue, my energy levels were clearly a lot lower than they were at the baseline the new baseline that I had been able to achieve at that point. So I had to cut back on all activities quite a bit, but nonetheless, in comparison to crashes, because obviously I've had this condition now for 5 years, and the first 3 years were characterized by only a downtrend, whereas the last 2 years I've had sort of more of an uptrend, painful one, a slow one, I would say. But it's all relative. For some ME patients, it was still maybe considered fast. Um, so I don't quite know really what's the normal. I would have to look in more research. I do obviously know some research, so I think it's an all right progress still, but compared to what you would normally um, consider fast progress, it's probably not that fast. So I think, anyway, I'm happy it's going in the right direction, even though there are huge, huge dips on the way. It's certainly not a straight line up, big fluctuations. That is so. Yeah. Anyway, my point is that compared to previous experiences that I've had with this, it wasn't that brutal because um, I didn't have to reduce my activities that much, maybe by like 30%, I would say, maybe 40 on the worst of days, maybe 50. I mean, obviously the start it was way more, because then you have to really just lay down flat in order to stop all the symptoms, and you have to do that for for a while. So maybe the first couple of days, maybe the first week was a lot worse. But on the steps, I don't feel like the dip was that. When I look at the steps, the dip wasn't that strong compared to what I've experienced in the past. And I just think that goes to show that when you have a prolonged period where you really pace well and you avoid crashes, and it takes a little more, it can take a little more to bring you all the way back, though it is still faster, a lot faster. If you've been at a severe level with this condition, then it's gonna be faster. So what I would say is that recovery is possible, or improvements at least are possible. But yeah, how long it will take and how much it will take can really vary a lot depending on the severity and individual circumstances. So it's certainly not easy. It's certainly not easy, and for some people it can be. I think I reckon almost impossible. But because the margin becomes so small at the more severe levels that you will, almost anything that you do will trigger a crash, because you just, your whole immune system, nervous system, hormonal endocrine system, everything is just so extremely sensitive that you have such a tight margin. And once you reach that stage, it's very hard to break the loop, so to say, because that's what you need to do, and it can take many, many years to do so. And so, yeah, I'm happy about that the crash wasn't that bad. And so I would say it started. I was really sure this is a crash around the 10th of October. Now it is. Let's see. Today it is the 23rd of November. So it's been about almost 6 weeks, actually. Almost 6 weeks. Damn, that's already a long time that's passed. But that's typically what it takes for me to mostly recover from crashes. When I have them, it's about 6 weeks if I really handle it well. But it can even take longer, up to much longer actually. Maybe between 10 to 16 weeks before I reach a new high. Even after that, but before I reach at least back to the baseline, it's typically like 6 weeks for me in the past, at least. Hopefully, it can go faster. That's been my hope, but I don't know. We will have to see about that. So yeah. Obviously, been pretty rough. A lot of symptoms. Also, when the body is even typically when you don't reach a new low, your body will get back to the baseline much faster, which it did, but it doesn't mean that it will not create a lot of symptoms as it does that. So obviously, in addition to the fatigue, though I was somewhat functional, I had a lot of symptoms again from the nervous system in particular. Um, so yeah, that's really annoying. Basically, I'm not sure I'm going to elaborate on all of those symptoms right now, but a lot of weird stuff is what I can say. um, and it's like these cycles where it's like the body tries to adjust, and to get to a higher level, and you just have a bunch of symptoms as the body tries to do so. And so yeah, that's pretty brutal. And obviously having to reduce your activity rest so much more, it's very frustrating when you're used to higher baseline. Mentally it can be very, emotionally it can be very tough, to say the least. But gradually I've been, and it's in the grand scheme of things, compared to what I've experienced before, it's really quite fast, I would say. And the last 2 weeks haven't been bad. And I think this last week I'm pretty much back to baseline. This last week's pretty much back to where I was, and I do expect that in the coming weeks I might go even higher. But I have to be a little careful, because even though you can usually tolerate a crash every now and then without it breaking your uptrend, it's still so frustrating to have to go through these big drawbacks as far as your activity level goes. So that's something I really would like to avoid, obviously, and just to maintain a more stable daily routine. And I am also in the process of trying to I'm going to try to do some work. I do have something going on there. So that is going to come up hopefully soon. It's not all in my hands, but I'll get back to that. And then I will need this, I will need to, if I'm going to be able to work at all, even to a limited degree, this stage, I need to be able to maintain somewhat of a stable form, because that is the way I see it. That is the biggest challenge of this condition. Once you get to, maybe higher moderate level, or higher, maybe you have sometimes some ability to work, but the problem is the fluctuations, and which kind of employer can really be dependent on an employee that is constantly having these massive fluctuations that causes absence. That doesn't work. So I need to get even better at pacing going forward. So yeah, that is obviously going to be something I will try to do. It's just so frustrating to have these drawbacks, and I think they can in theory be avoided, but whether in practicality that's possible is another question. But there's no choice but to try, I guess. So that's what we're going to do going forward. So yeah, yeah, and like I said, the last 1 or 2 weeks haven't been too bad, especially the last week, because I'm almost pretty much back to baseline, and I think I actually uh, set a new daily record also, with more than 5,200 steps. It was just by like 100 more steps than the previous one. But it's still a good sign, and I have been taking some a bit longer walks. I mean, they're not long for a healthy person; they're not considered long. But if you consider for someone who's severely sick with ME, which I was 2 years ago, at my worst, it's certainly pretty decent. If you can walk like 20 minutes, 2 days consecutively, in a row, and you also do, like today I did several hours of housework here, not all in once. I have to divide it up, but I think probably 3 hours of just because everything was a mess here since I was so sick in the last month. So it was a lot to catch up on, but I was able to do about 3 hours of housework and a shower, and now I can sit here and talk still. So, all in all, I don't think that's so bad. Though the day before, the two last days, I had to rest again after those walks that I had. I'll see if I can find some pictures. I did take some pictures, so maybe I will just upload some pictures just to show from the walks I had. So, all in all, I think my life is really on the right track here with this. All in all, it's a very painful process still, and lots of ups and downs. And my life is still there's still a lot of repair needed to get my life fully back together, and it's gonna take a while, for sure, many pieces, but yeah, that's all for the future, and the main thing is that goes in the right direction. And I just want to say that health is the true wealth. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If your health is in shambles, I mean, your life is going to suck anyway. So always put your health first. Put it before work, and your employer isn't going to be there if you fuck up your health. If you work yourself to death, he's probably not going to be there for you. So you need to always be a little selfish. Many people have, even though we're not talking about MECFS, just in general, many people sometimes have a tendency to put others ahead of themselves, and push themselves too far, and if you do so over time, eventually something is going to break. So you need to stay sort of within your capacity. That is because you want to have a health. What I would say is a health surplus as well. You don't want to always run a deficit, and over time things add up, either in a positive or negative direction. So that is just the last words I wanted to add here. So anyways, if anyone is watching this and finding it somewhat interesting, I guess for most people it's doesn't make any kind of sense, and certainly wouldn't for me either if I didn't go through this process, which I'm fortunate enough having to go through. But anyways, yeah, if anyone's watching this, catch you later. Take care, guys. Bye bye.